We are going to have some news tomorrow because we're going to have the virtual owner meetings, and we're going to get some votes on some potential rule changes here. So Paul and Lance touched on these a little bit at the end of yesterday's show. They got a call about it, but I thought I would kind of bring it up with you and get your take on what some of these rule proposals are. And the big one has to do with special teams. So I thought it was really a good one to talk about with you, and I'll start there. Basically, this is from the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
To provide, and they have ones that the competition committee recommended, by the way, and then some that get recommended by teams. This one is from the Eagles to amend the kickoff rule and the onside kick rule, where instead of doing an onside kick, a team could go for it on a 4th and 15 from their own 25-yard line. And it's not in the official NFL operations sheet that I'm looking at here, but my understanding, Jeff, is that you can only do that twice over the course of the game.
That's right.
More details came out today. It would be an untimed down, and it could not be done in overtime. It would only be a something that could be done during regulation. So your thoughts on those rules, my friend?
Well, I was doing a little research when we knew we were going to be talking about some of these rules, and I know that they've changed this as of late. So there was definitely some talking about this, and the one thing that stuck out for me was the word alternative. So the alternative is it's not a matter of you have to do this. You can still do the onside kick, which, by the way, I saw a statistic. There was only 6 of them recovered last year, or 8, something like that, very low percentage. But if you want to do this, you have the alternative. You can either do this or you can do the kickoff. And
by the way, just for the record, they did put out a new official wording today, and it can only be used twice. Well, this is something that Tom Pelissero tweeted out.
Okay.
So I think this got leaked to him through ownership somewhere.
I'm actually looking at that same tweet right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can only be used twice in regulation. Cannot be used in overtime. 4th and 15, untimed down. Here's another one. If either a kickoff or offensive team will elect kickoff alternative, or the kickoff return or defensive team commits a foul during the score or try that would normally bridge to the kickoff, and that means, on the basically kind of like a celebration penalty after a touchdown, something like that. Where I lost my spot. Commits a foul during the score, try that would normally bridge, it would be enforced from the 25.
Sure.
So if Team A commits a foul for taunting after the score, B could enforce the 15-yard penalty, which would be half the distance, and the new line of scrimmage would be the 13-yard line, and that's who they would try their 4th and 15, and it would move to the 40, for example, if the other team commits a 15-yard penalty. The play clock would be at 25, but it would be an untimed down. All normal play rules, penalty enforcements apply in the kickoff play. If the offense converts, it's a first down. No matter where the dead ball spot is, the game clock begins on the next snap. Once the team elects the kickoff alternative and incurs a penalty on the kickoff alternative scrimmage down, it may not change and elect to kick off.
Yep.
This is a big one. For example, if it's 4th and 15, you commit a holding penalty, it's 4th and 25. You can't, they say, oh, no, now I want to kick off. You still have to go for it on 4th and 25. And if A elects the kickoff alternative and is charged a team timeout before the referee signals ready to play, it can change its election and kickoff. So those are the details of that rule.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
I think that, I think a lot of people have talked about this. If you have you have a quarterback that you trust that can make a play like this, it's an advantage. But listen, I feel like at the percentage that these onside kicks happen and at the risk of injuries that the way they do, I mean, why not? Just go for it. I mean, you got a better chance. I like my chances better with Daniel Jones and Shepard and guys like that to be able than Saquon to convert 15 yards than the onside kick. I'm all for it. I think it's a great rule.
Yes, I agree, Jeff. And Paul and Lance were both against it when they talked about it yesterday. I think it's a good rule.
But why were they against it?
Well, Paul's a traditionalist. You know that.
Of course. And that was my one thing I was going to say. Paul doesn't want to change anything in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think and I get that. I really do. And some people are like that. I'm a lot like that. But I don't fear change.
Yeah, I'm not. I didn't quite understand why Lance didn't like it.
And then the other thing too is it's coming down. the kickoff is going to get changed sooner or later, like they did at the XFL.
By the way, I like those XFL rules. I wasn't that familiar with them. Paul mentioned them on yesterday's show, and I looked them up. I thought they were interesting.
They're very well thought out, and it gave the NFL kind of a trial period to see if it had any merit to any of it.
And for the folks that don't know, by the way, you have to kick it off between like the 10 and 30 yard line or the goal line and the 30 yard line.
You're penalized for a touchback.
If you touch back, I think they get it at the 30 or 40, something like that. So they basically try to force kickoffs to be in play, but they also change where the players are positioned avoid some of the excess contact.
That's right. And people are probably sitting there going, well, wait a sec, I don't get this. The NFL they don't want contact on a kickoff, so why would there be a touchback penalty? But you hit the nail on the head. They're only the players are going to be, they're situated like 10 to 15 yards apart, and then when the kicker's way back at the whatever yard line, 35 yard line. And so, he kicks it and nobody can leave until this is the XFL. Now, the returner caught it, and then once the returner caught it, then everybody went. And there was only one touchdown in the XFL, however many weeks they played, scored on that type of play.
Now,
all the rest of them were tackled.
Yeah, so. Just for the record, we had some disagreement on the numbers yesterday. The rule changes that made the onside kick very difficult by not allowing the kickoff team a running start, for one, and also not being able to position more than half your players on one side of the field.
That's right.
It's really made onside kicks more difficult. So before those rules were implemented in 2017, there was a 22% or 21.7% recovery rate, right?
Well, okay.
And so that was before the rule got changed. And, 1 out of 5, I think that's fair. That's okay. In 2018, the recovery rate was just 7.5%, 4 of 53. And then in 2019, it went up to 12%, 7 out of 56, but that's just because of the Falcons kicker who had like 3 or 4 of them and kind of figured out a trick to make it happen. And just for the record, 4th and 15 in 2019, teams converted 28% of those.
Okay.
And from 2015 to 2019, it was a 24% clip.
Well,
so it'll put it more in line with what traditionally the onside kick used to be.
And also, I don't know if you mentioned this, John, the onside kick does not have to happen from the team that's losing.
Correct. Oh, yeah, you could do it at any time with any score.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. I mean, I don't know why you would do it, but,
Yeah, to me, Jeff, I'm with you, though. I think at the end of the game, we've seen too many situations where it's just as impossible for a team to make a late comeback because they have to recover that onside kick, and it's become really just so hard to do.
But I also I like the metrics of this. I like the way that the number has gone up a little. I mean, it went from 12% last year to 28% on 4th and 15. So, those numbers there give me a little bit of excitement because I'd rather that tells you got a chance. You got basically a 1 in 4 chance of getting this, where before you didn't. And I also feel they can be creative. Defenses can get creative, and offenses are going to have to get creative to get that 15 yards.
Well, it's funny, and you talk about practice, Jeff, and, fans probably don't realize this because they're not there.
Yeah.
Teams practice situations, right?
Yeah.
They practice third downs. They practice, 2-point conversions. They practice third and fourth and short. Well, you know what they're going to do now? They're going to have as part of practice where all they do is practice 4th and 15.
Absolutely. They got to run, 3 or 4 of those plays a day. And if they do it 3 times a week, they're going to get 12 plays or 10, whatever, 9 plays a game. Here's the other one, John. How about this? How many times have you seen, check this out, a kickoff, an onside kickoff return for a touchdown?
Yeah.
Not very often, right? But how many times if we see this rule agreed upon and it actually is implemented and teams do it, there's a chance, a good chance, not a great chance, but there's a chance that maybe this 4th and 15 onside kick could turn into that team is behind, could actually turn into the winning touchdown.
Yeah.
You never know.
And I'll tell you what, Jeff, these teams are going to be so desperate. If they're behind and there's very little time left, and if they don't convert this, the game's over. You're going to see, quarterbacks holding the ball, running around. There could be like safeties and interceptions.
And that's where the Patrick Mahomes of the world come in as an advantage, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, the other one is you got to look out for that pass interference call.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's another element that comes into this play.
Yeah, because when in doubt, they're just going to chuck it down the field.
No question. Which, by the way, those guys, when in doubt, that's what they do anyways, right? I mean, it's. But listen, everybody must understand that these rules are just not picked out of a hat. They're very well studied, and this is how the NFL makes the game how good it is by some rules. Now, There's some stupid rules that are going to get changed because people come up with ideas that we think would be good, and then all of a sudden they don't do anything. They become obsolete. Like, are you kidding me? Why did we put this rule in? It's the stupidest thing we've ever seen because all of a sudden it just doesn't work out the way people want it to work out.
All right, now we got a couple other rules, Jeff. Unless there's something else on the onside kick you want to touch on.
No, I don't. I know
Okay.
that there was another one on the kickoff and punt return one you want to mention, right?
Yeah, let's do that right now. So basically you give defenseless player protection to a kickoff or punt returner who has the ball but has not had time to avoid or ward off impending contact. That basically, folks, is that bang-bang play. The punt returner does not call a fair catch, and the minute he catches it, he gets lit up. Well, now you cannot hit that player in the head. That will be considered a defenseless player. So all
Sure.
those rules then apply to a defenseless player.
And I think it's important that you did mention it's helmet to helmet,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, he can still tackle the guy and blow him up, but you better be a good hit. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, I think it's any contact above the shoulder, so forearm would be illegal there too. But as long as you target the guy in the chest and you don't lead with your helmet,
it's got to
you'll
be a
okay.
legal hit,
Correct.
and it's got to be. Well, first of all, on a punt return, you have the halo, right? You got to give him a certain amount of yards to catch the football, anyways. I think it's 2 or 3 yards. So, but that can happen a bang play. The guy catches it, the guy's 3 yards away from you, and then he's gonna level you. But it better be a legal hit.
Yes. Now there are some other things that aren't quite as big. That was a competition committee one, by the way. So that one's
Yep,
probably
there was 2 of those,
So
right?
that one's probably going to get passed. The other competition committee suggestion was to prevent teams from manipulating the game clock by committing multiple dead ball fouls while the clock is running.
Yeah,
this is you got it. You say it.
Yeah, it was the Belichick and the what's the dude? The other guys. It was hilarious.
Was it Vrabel?
How
Vrabel
he
did it,
turned
right? Yeah.
he turned the tide on his old coach by doing it
Yep.
last year.
And basically what the teams would do, because the clock does not stop before 5 minutes on these penalties, they would just keep committing false starts on these punts, and they'd let like a minute plus go off the clock because they have a lead. So that makes a lot of sense. That's a hole in the rules that people find. You want to close those when you can. The Eagles want to expand automatic replay to include scoring plays and turnovers negated by a foul. Because remember, unless there's an actual turnover or a touchdown is called on the field, those are not automatically reviewed. So if a guy scores a touchdown, but there's an offensive pass interference on the play, that play is not automatically reviewed, right? Because it wasn't technically a touchdown.
This is a good change.
And I think this change makes sense too. I'm with you on that.
And I like the wording to make permanent the expansion of alternate
Yes.
of automatic replay.
Now,
this is good.
This is not a rule suggestion, by the way, Jeff, but we probably are going to get some clarity, I guess, in exactly what pass interference replay will look like, too, at some point. I don't know. And so we'll see about that. I imagine it's going to be reduced greatly, but
Yeah.
I don't
It has
know
to
to
be.
what extent.
Here's the other one that says that it makes up in the context of this rule or proposed rule change. It's successful or unsuccessful PATs, which, by the way, that's good because sometimes there are longer field goals now. Those point after touchdowns, right? I mean, so I like this because sometimes there are the 2 referees or umpires, whoever they are, they're looking at each other going, was it good? I don't know. Was it good? I don't know. Put your hands up. No, put them down. I don't know.
Right, and if the ball goes above the goalpost,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's hard to review. But,
absolutely. It's very difficult for a guy standing underneath the goalpost looking up to see if it actually went over the post, if it's 10 feet above it.
Yep.
All
right, 3 other ones very quickly, Jeff. This one was proposed by the Dolphins. Provide the option to the defense for the game clock to start on the referee's signal if the defense declines an offensive penalty that occurs late in either half. And this is what happens sometimes when there's an offensive holding penalty, which will stop the clock. And obviously the defense, if there's a 2-minute drill situation, wants the clock to run. So then, they don't want to accept it. They don't want to accept it. They don't want to decline the penalty. And it becomes like a catch-22 situation here.
Sure.
So you're almost benefiting the offense by them committing a penalty and getting the clock stopped, right?
Right.
So you want to take that out of the rules. This gives the defense then the option where if the offense commits that offensive holding penalty, if you accept it, you're not penalizing yourself by also stopping the clock.
Correct. Yep. I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, there's teams that manipulate this all the time. And if you're a defensive team that you're winning the game, you want that clock to run.
Now, my example was bad, Jeff, because it's only if the defensive team declines a penalty. But even so, that'll get you to 4th down sometimes, but you want the clock to run. You don't want it to stop. because you want the time to keep going because it's the end of the game. The other team might be trailing. So same type of deal. But again, this is just one of those deals where you're not going to benefit the offense by stopping the clock by them committing a penalty.
Yep.
I like it. All right, 2 other rules very quickly. The Ravens and the Los Angeles Chargers, they want to add basically a sky judge as an 8th official to the officiating crew up in the booth. From what I've read, some of the concerns here is them finding these sky judges to put up there that they think will do a good job with it because there just aren't a lot of officials out there. So many guys have retired over the years. So that's something to keep an eye on. I like the idea of a sky judge. I think it simplifies a lot of the issues, especially with the pass interference stuff. And sometimes, Jeff, if you're in that area up there in the press box, you can just see things with a bigger picture. You have the monitors in front of you, and it just makes things a little bit easier with the whole reviewing process.
Elaborate a little bit on this because I want some clarification. So
Sure.
The 8th official would be watching the game on a monitor, and if they saw a penalty, they would call it?
I'm not exactly sure what the details are with that. They could probably automatically initiate reviews.
Okay.
Would be my bet. And maybe if there's an obvious thing with the guy stepping out of bounds or something like that, they could step in. The NFL operations list that I'm looking at here on their website, because it's the official NFL website now, I do not have what the official wording would be on this 2020 rule, but it would basically add a sky judge that could assist the officials with reviews and stuff over the course of the game, like real time. If there's a obvious mistake out there on the field, like for example, I would bet if there's a sky judge, they would be able to buzz down in that Rams-Saints game and say that should have been a pass interference penalty on that play. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah. It's another way of getting one other opinion from somebody that's maybe has seen the replay way before a live official has. You know what I'm saying? So they could be able to. I was just curious, like they're not going to be able to make calls by watching the play and watching the left guard, and he's holding a player, and the penalty wasn't called, and that they scream down or they buzz down to the official and say, hey, Hernandez, the left guard for the Giants, was holding on that last play. You need to throw a flag.
Yeah, I don't have the details on that.
I would hate for that to happen.
Okay. Because I don't know if that's a part of it or not. Because
I hope
it doesn't
not,
say it here on the website.
And I'm making this up, but I just don't know. But could you imagine if that's what it is? I mean, this could be a penalty fest.
Now, my guess is that it would just be egregious things. You know what I mean?
Or things that that the referees, the guy scores a touchdown and the other team is yelling and screaming that he did step out of bounds. And if it's a challengeable play, I don't know. But this, I see what the premise is here. I hope that's what it is.
Yeah.
And if it is, I think it's a good thing. Why not? I think other than having to pay the guy and what you said, finding the guy, it might be difficult.
Yeah, the mechanics of that would be very important, and that is not something that's clear. That's something probably I imagine that they would then talk about and figure out later.
Yeah.
If they
you
put
think
it
about
in
it, John, that's another 16 referees that they have to find.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Maybe they'd have some of these older guys say, you're going to take early retirement. We're going to put you upstairs.
Or maybe they could pull some of the guys that recently retired, like the Terry McAuliffes, the Gene
if they wanted to do that. Sure.
By the way, I don't think they do. Would you want to go leave TV if you're those guys and go get the pressure of being a sky judge and probably make less money? No, thank you.
There you go. They're going to be less money, and they're not going to be as notorious. I mean,
exactly. All right. And then the final rule, Jeff, the Ravens and the Chargers, again, want to add a senior technology advisor to the referee to assist the officiating crew. I'm assuming that's probably for like the replay review and things like that to just help maybe with the clock, making sure the timing is right. They watch the clock. Again, this isn't clear exactly what that person would do, but that is something else that's on there.
It sounds pretty good, though. A senior technology advisor. What a title.
Not just a technology advisor, a senior technology advisor.
Senior.
Yes.
So I wonder if you have to be over 55 to be a senior technology advisor.
I don't know. But that vote's going to happen, I think, tomorrow when the NFL owners do their virtual meetings. We'll see what gets passed. I imagine that the two suggested by the competition committee will. I would bet that the one by the Dolphins, where the defense can choose to move the clock or not on a declined offensive penalty, I bet you that will pass. I'm curious to see if the onside kick rule passed, because I like it. I think you like it.
I like
too.
it.
So,
but I was reading an article where John Mara had mentioned last year, what are we, the Arena Football League?
oh, is that what he
quote
said?
unquote.
You know what, Jeff? If the onside kick wasn't so difficult to do, I wouldn't be in favor of it either. But it's so hard to do the onside kicks now.
Yeah, and I feel like the argument here is like, listen, let's give everybody's going to have a chance to use this play at some point in time in their season, most likely, right? So why not have a 28% chance rather than a 12 or less? So I don't. And by the way, I guess when you bring up safety, any play in the National Football League is dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So even the 4th and 15, somebody could get hurt on that play. But I feel like there's more of an excitement from a fan's perspective. The onside kick is like, oh, darn. Oh, darn. The play? Oh, my God, what are they doing? They got 7 receivers in the game. Oh, my God, what are they doing? There's going to be some excitement to it. So that's what I like about it. And again, I'm a purist. I don't want to change the game of football, but I see at some point in time, these little things like this make sense to me. And by the way, they're on the special team side. They're not on the offense and defensive side.
Hey, Giants fans, Saquon Barkley here. You want to see more videos? Subscribe below.